Hi, my name is Michael Karoda. I ended up coming to Mobilisa in the Port Townsend area because I had friends that worked here and knew them really well, and they said it was a great place to live, so I ended up coming here.
Where had you lived previous to this?
Well, I was going to school up in Bellingham at Western Washington University, and then before that I grew up in Longview, Washington, which is north of Portland, Oregon, about an hour.
So tell us a little bit about your educational history and how you ended up here.
Well, in high school I started doing web design work and stuff, and got internships at a couple companies, and then from there I ended up going to Western for a computer science degree, and then that's where I met some people that ended up working here, and that's how I got the job.
So take me back to high school. What sort of, when you were doing web design, you using HTML process, or how are you?
Yeah, using HTML, basically, yeah.
Okay, all right. And were you messing around with computers at that time too?
A little bit, not a whole lot.
What kinds of things were you doing in high school with computers?
My high school didn't really have a computer program per se, so a lot of the stuff that I did was I taught myself how to use the computer. The family had a computer, and so... Did you
dismantle computers at all?
No, I didn't really do that.
You didn't get into that. But you've been doing some robotics stuff.
Yeah, up at Western, before I graduated, they started doing these Lego classes in the computer science department. And so I thought that was a really fun idea, and I ended up taking a few classes there. It was geared on robotics and how do you program a robot to do learning and be smart, artificial intelligence and stuff like that. And then actually when I ended up coming here, I was contacted by a group that was affiliated with the local 4-H club, and I was actually doing some work with some of those kids for the Lego robots.
Oh yeah, was that, what's the guy's name? The guy that works down at the boatyard?
Yeah, at the boatyard.
Yeah,
I can't remember his name.
Yeah, it's escaping me right now. What do you think about, it's C++, isn't it, that they use on the Lego Mindstorm?
The Lego Mindstorms actually use their own thing.
Okay.
They actually have this really simple language to use. That's all graphics and everything, and you just click and drag things around and tell it to move the motor forward or backward, or so it's pretty easy for kids to learn, and that's basically what I was there for, was kind of teaching these kids some of the basics of the programming.
So what value do you see in that experience, if any, for kids?
Well, it gives you experience of designing something, because you have to figure out a problem first, and then you have to look at how to solve it. And usually the solving requires building a robot, which can be often fun, and then actually programming the robot to do different things in order to solve the problem at hand.
You see some parallels in the work that you're doing now?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of times they give us problems to solve, and we have to look at the different alternatives and figure out which one is the most appropriate for the job. And sometimes what you think might be the best way to do it is not always ends up being the best, because you have to look at all the different alternatives and look at each one
and come up with some solution that works.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for sharing that.
Yep.